Cashaw begged the judge for leniency.
I've done things in my life, I'm not perfect.
TK remained cold as ice when the life sentence was delivered.
You're young, but you're gonna have to make better choices. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm gonna sentence him to 80 years in the prison.
Sur still insists, swearing on his mama, that those witnesses were just capping for the
Just making stuff up, 15 minutes of fame.
These rap cats got hit with the whole library, and their courtroom reactions were wilder than the crimes that put them there. Take Queso, for example. In Jacksonville's drill scene where keeping it real can cost you everything, nobody's downfall hit harder than Hakeem Robinson, better known as Queso. The 26-year-old spitter from the ATK, Ace Top Killers, crew watched his entire world collapse in a courtroom moment that went more viral than any track he ever dropped. The beef that ultimately landed him behind bars was born out of real street politics long before drill rap went mainstream on social media. The ATK versus KTA rivalry Kill Them All had been boiling since at least 2019, fueled by diss tracks, Instagram stunts, and real bullets. At the core of it all was a personal vendetta that cost Queso his freedom. The spark came in 2019 when his stepbrother, Willie Addison, known in the streets as Boss Goon, was killed in a drive-by that also left Queso's father, brother, and cousin wounded.
I guess 2 or 3 cars pulled up on the side of us, shot inside our car over 100 times, killed my son in the front seat, shot my son in the back, in the head 3 times, shot my nephew several times, a couple more passengers in there were shot several times, numerous of times.
Losing Boss Goon was painful enough, but it cut even deeper when rival rapper Lil Buck, real name Charles McCormick Jr., dropped a diss track straight disrespecting the dead. The response came fast. On January 15, 2020, in broad daylight on Merrill Road in Arlington, alongside his homie Leroy Whitaker and their shooter Dominique Barner, allegedly stalked the 23-year-old as he left a job interview around 11 a.m. They caught him slipping and opened fire on the spot. An off-duty cop saw everything and immediately gave chase. 2 suspects even ran into a house, briefly holding the homeowner hostage before giving themselves up, but nothing hit harder than when his own blood turned against him. In one of the trial's most devastating moments, Queso's father took the stand as a state witness, tearfully identifying.
Did you, when you viewed that recording, recognize the person depicted in it?
Yes.
Who is the person that was captured on the video recording shooting Charles McCormick?
My son.
Through tears, he admitted it was the hardest thing he had ever done.
In this case, something that is easy for you to do.
No, this is the most hardest decision I've had to make in my life.
That testimony came through a plea deal. Queso's father cut his own losses, dodging extra years for his role in the beef and instead taking a 24-month federal sentence in August 2025. From there, prosecutors doubled down, pulling out Queso's own lyrics and Instagram posts, which they painted as straight-up self-snitching confessions tied to bodies he allegedly dropped out on July 31, 2025. After a 6-day trial and only 3.5 hours of jury deliberation, the verdict hit like a bombshell, guilty on all counts. In Florida, first-degree murder leaves no wiggle room. It's mandatory life without parole. When the judge read the decision, the entire courtroom froze. Then came the moment that went viral across hood Instagram pages nationwide. Queso sat stunned, hand over his mouth, glasses off, shaking his head in disbelief next to his lawyer. Reality had set in. He wasn't going home. At just 26 years old, his August 2025 sentencing locked him away for life, sealing his fate behind the wall forever. But while Queso's destiny was decided in one crushing courtroom moment, way.W. Melly's case has dragged on like a slow-burning nightmare. Jamel Maurice Demons, better known as way.W. Melly, remains caught in an endless loop of hearings, mistrials, and emotional breakdowns, with the weight of either life in prison or the death penalty still looming over him like a storm cloud. Behind bars since February 2019, his career and youth have been swallowed whole by a case that refuses to end. way.W. Melly has been behind bars since February 2019 on charges that could ultimately cost him his life. The case, consuming nearly a decade of his young career, centers on the deaths of 2 of his closest friends and fellow way.W. crew members, Christopher way.W. Juvie Thomas Jr., just 19, and Anthony way.W. Sackchaser Williams, 21. On October 26, 2018, what began as a routine late-night studio session in Fort Lauderdale spiraled into a nightmare that shattered families and cut short 2 promising lives. Prosecutors allege that after leaving the studio, Melly, then only 19 years old, turned on his own crew inside a Jeep, shooting Juvie 8 times and Sackchaser 12 times from the left rear passenger seat, where surveillance cameras had recorded him earlier that night. The state's theory goes even further. Prosecutors claim Melly and co-defendant Cortland YNW Bortland Henry staged an elaborate cover-up, firing additional rounds into the vehicle from outside to make it appear like a drive-by near the Everglades. They then drove the fatally wounded men to Memorial Hospital Miramar, where both were pronounced dead. The evidence laid out in court played like the script of a crime film. Ballistics confirmed the fatal shots came from inside the Jeep, specifically the seat where Melly had been sitting. But the most chilling piece of evidence, prosecutors argued, was a digital confession. Shortly after the killings, when a friend checked in on him, a message came back from Melly's phone that read simply, "Shoo, I did that."
In the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Demmons is good, after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this drive group. And Mr. Demmons responds very succinctly, "I did that." Shh.
A month later, prosecutors claimed a video found on his phone captured him saying, "There's
No regrets. Did that also means that. Yeah. 4:30 a.m. Never say when.
John Michael Hakeem Gibson, better known in the rap game as Cash Out, became the center of one of the most devastating scandals in hip-hop history when his own mother and cousin were convicted alongside him in a sweeping RICO case that uncovered years of systematic sexual exploitation and violence. The Atlanta rapper, who once tasted mainstream success in the early 2010s with hits like Cashing Out and She Twerkin', saw his career and freedom collapse in a courtroom where even his closest family couldn't escape justice. What made the case even more shocking wasn't just the severity of the charges, but the revelation that Gibson's label, Pyrex Music Group LLC, was allegedly being used as a front for a criminal enterprise built on sex trafficking and pimping. Prosecutors described a chilling 7-year reign of abuse in which Gibson and his crew controlled victims through manipulation, intimidation, and violence. The tactics were systematic and brutal. Victims, often recruited through social media with promises of modeling work or music video appearances, were stripped of their IDs, forced to post ads for prostitution, and had their earnings withheld. Living in constant fear, they endured beatings, pistol whippings, and even being run down by vehicles. The charges against Gibson were extensive and devastating. Gibson was ultimately convicted on a staggering list of charges: rape, aggravated sodomy, 2 counts of trafficking for sexual servitude, violation of Georgia's RICO Act for running the enterprise across multiple counties, battery, possession of a firearm during a felony, pimping, pandering, maintaining a place of prostitution, obstruction of law enforcement, and possession of contraband as an inmate. What made the case even more devastating was the involvement of his own family. His mother, Linda Smith, known as Mama Cashout, and cousin Tyrone Taylor were tried alongside him as co-defendants. Smith handled the finances and logistics of the operation, while Taylor was directly involved in coercion and also faced cocaine possession charges. Prosecutors, working across multiple agencies, emphasized Gibson's complete lack of remorse. They noted he had rejected a 25-year plea deal, opting instead to take his chances at trial, a move many legal experts later called a textbook trial penalty, leading to a far harsher outcome. On July 21, 2025, the judge delivered a sentence that reflected the weight of his crimes: 2 life terms, 1 each for rape and aggravated sodomy, served concurrently, along with an additional 75 years for the remaining convictions. In a moment that underscored his disconnect from reality, Gibson used his final statement to the court not to accept responsibility, but to insist on his innocence.